This is Horror Sucks, the podcast where we watch horror movies and tell you why they suck. Sometimes they don't. I'm Ashley, and Carter and I just won trivia.
That was going to be my go-to.
Yeah, of course.
Well, I'm Carter, and I...
This is a first.
Yeah, usually I have something.
You usually do, and then you give me a hard time about not having anything.
And I am 10 days out from doing the murder mystery.
I mean, same.
By the time you hear it, we will be... Still won't have happened, but still. Anyway, I was with Ashley when we did our trivia, and it rocked. We almost lapped the second place.
We killed it.
We did.
Oh, good stuff.
I was telling David, and you heard this, so this is entirely for the benefit of our fans. Trivia is a lot like heist movies, where each person you get needs to have like a job. So I'm like the geography and football guy. We got David. David's the politics and colonialism guy. You're the pop culture guy. So every
what are our rest of our friends?
I mean, no one knows the rest of our friends. So
that's not true. Ian and Holly have both been guests on the show.
You're right. Ian, I couldn't think of anything for Holly, but Ian's our technician.
That's fair.
/ demolitions expert.
Holly's our general smarts. Because she does get a lot of questions right. But it's all like just things that none of us would think of because of our specialties. She just covers everything else pretty much.
Holly's our Hannibal... What's his name?
Hannibal Lecter?
No, from the A-Team.
Oh, I don't know.
I love it when a plan comes together. Come on, who's that guy? Hannibal something.
I've never watched the A-Team.
Yeah, but surely you've seen the remake starring Bradley Cooper and Liam Neeson.
I've never watched any sort of semblance of the A-Team.
Okay, well, you should. It's bad, but you should still watch it.
This is how most conversations go with Carter, where he's saying, you haven't seen this movie? You should watch it. It's bad, but you should watch it. I've had that conversation far too many times.
Yeah, so the beauty of trivia is just whenever they ask a question and everyone looks at the same person, like, go dude, it's your time. So before we get into this, I don't believe we have actually said the name of the movie yet, and I'm going to keep it that way. I do want to share one of my just favorite moments.
They're going to know what movie it is. It's in the title.
I just want to share one of my favorite moments of my life, which was I was watching Under the Dome, and I don't remember exactly the joke, but for the purposes of this bit, let's say one of the characters said, "We need to rescue her." And I said out loud to the room, I go, "Rescue her? I barely know her." And I look, and I'm sitting alone in an empty room.
Good. Not even the ghost laugh.
Yeah, so that's really a perfect way to set the scene for Hellraiser, the 2018 remake. 2022. I don't know why I say 2018. I don't know where that number came from.
I was gonna say, wait a minute.
Am I still living in 2018?
Apparently.
So this movie is not quite a remake, not quite a sequel. It's kind of just a movie inspired by the original.
Yeah, I would say it's a retake. Mm-hmm. So like it's a different take on the concepts brought up, which is how I felt watching it.
Mm-hmm. Which is fair. I prefer that to the like Scream style, really shitty sequel, but it's actually a remake. I prefer it to that. And so I'm not going to judge it too harshly on what it fails to do that the original did.
I don't think you can really compare it too much to the original.
That's not going to stop me, but yeah.
I have some notes upon that, but...
By the way, this movie is available on Hulu. So if you are listening to this thinking, damn, I wish I was watching the 2022 Hellraiser, well... By all means, you can load up your Hulu account and listen to it.
Oh, before Carter gets into the plot, though, for those of you who have never listened to our show, hey, what's up? Welcome. Just a little...
Auf Wiedersehen for those of you in Germany.
Just a little how we do things here.
That was an intentional joke, by the way. Okay. I'm worried that my German audience will just think I'm a total dipshit.
You mean you're one listener in Germany?
There's like 3. It's pretty impressive. Maybe it's just one guy listening 3 times.
I hope it is. No, I'm kidding. I actually hope we have more listeners.
To whom I say, auf Wiedersehen for listening.
Anyways, so how we do things here is that we'll give the plot of the movie with spoilers. Then we will give some fun facts. We'll give our favorites and our least favorite moments in the good, the bad, and the spooky. And then we will go over our overall impressions and give a rating. So,
and the Joseph DeStasio Memorial Line highlight. God rest his soul.
Cannot forget about, oh gosh, what's the abbreviation for that? The JDMLH. I'm going to start referring to it as the JDLMH. Actually, that rolls off the tongue quite well.
With that, I am ready to get into the plot. Are you ready?
Kick us off, yeah.
Okay. So, the movie opens at a party with Roland Voigt. He is a Massachusetts millionaire, and a guy is invited into his, I don't know what to call it, solarium, let's say. It's this big living room almost. And so he goes in, he's looking around, and he sees this puzzle box. And as he's messing around with it, Voight comes in and invites him to finish it. And as he finishes the puzzle, a blade comes out and stabs him. He becomes woozy, and chains fly out and tear into his skin. Voight begins to say some generally vague but religious things about speaking with God. So 6 years later, the movie follows Riley. Riley is a drug addict who lives with her brother Matt, his boyfriend Colin, and their roommate Nora. I don't remember ever hearing the name Nora in the entire movie. Do you?
Yes, I do.
You do? Okay.
Yeah, that's the other.
All right.
She dies and they shout, Nora!
Yeah, I don't know what I heard there. So Riley's boyfriend comes over, they have sex, and he tells her he loves her, and then they leave. And basically, Riley's brother is really, looking out for her, but in a very intense way. So he tells her, you've been out of rehab for a while. At some point, I need you to start chipping in with the rent. So she needs some money. So she goes with Trevor. She met Trevor in AA. It's funny. They never
say actually how they met.
It's kind of hilarious how much they avoid it. They do their best to make her look kind of like a junkie. She's always wearing her sleeves low. She's really skinny. But then also, they show her popping what's clearly, ecstasy-shaped pills. And then he's like, you're drinking? You're ruining all of your progress? And so it's very unclear what she's recovering from. Which
I think it's just a lot of stuff overall.
I think it's supposed to be some generic drug because they're too cowardly to just say heroin.
I don't think you need to say.
What is Big Heroin going to come after this movie for making them look bad?
No, but I also don't think you need to specify.
I think it's a little cowardly. No one.
So it looked like she took a pill. So from that reference, you could say she was addicted to pills, and you don't need to specify that she was only taking, one thing. She knew about other pills and was like, oh, don't take too much of this.
Sure. Either way, they do a great job of showing her as just generally an addictive person.
Yeah.
She's engaging in sex constantly. She's smoking tobacco. There's a bong in Trevor's apartment, which she isn't shown using, but educated guess she probably does. She drinks a little bit. She's just shown as overall an addictive person. She follows Trevor's advice and breaks into a storage container with Trevor because they know it belongs to Roland Voigt. And they were thinking, whatever this is, we can sell it. And they find a puzzle box. Trevor is uninterested in this because he's kind of spooked out by it. But he says, I'll find someone who's willing to buy it and we'll split it 50-50. Riley gets into an argument with Matt because she comes home late smelling like alcohol. And so she leaves, takes some drugs in pill form, and goes and sits on a playground and just to entertain herself is playing with the puzzle box. And she solves it, but is holding it in a way where she isn't cut when the blade comes out. and she gets a little woozy from the drugs, not the blade. And while she's woozy, she sees the Cenobites, which are these humanoid demons. And they say, okay, you escaped, but you need to bring us more to pay back for the fact that you escaped us. And so Matt shows up, finds her passed out, and when he goes to touch the box, he accidentally cuts himself. He goes to wash his hands and disappears, let's say. Riley quickly makes the connection that it was the box that did it, and she starts tracking down Roland Voight, who owned the box, and finds his assistant. They wrestle for a while over the box, and then the assistant accidentally cuts herself, and is like, oh no, I did this, in the most predictable scene I can think of. And so she ends up getting taken by the Cenobites to their hell dimension. So Riley drives to Voight's mansion and finds a bunch of his journals, and discovers that the box has multiple configurations. I think I forgot to mention, every time that the box has drawn blood, it has changed shape. First from a box to like this tube shape. It just keeps changing. And she discovers that each of these shapes represents a configuration and requires a victim to be cut by the blade in order to move on. And once it reaches completion, it allows the holder to ask for any gift from the quote-unquote god. The powers are...
I have the list if you want it.
If you could, yeah.
Yeah. All right, so we have lore, knowledge, laudrent, which is love, liminal, which is sensation, Lazarus, which is resurrections, Leviathan, which is power.
Seeing Lazarus, Riley thinks, oh, I can bring back my brother using the Lazarus configuration. So she still needs 2 more bodies. It's kind of complex, so I'm just going to broad strokes this part. Her friends show up. One of her friends, Nora, gets stabbed by a box, and it's as stupid as it sounds. Picture a cardboard box and someone stabbing you with it. Silly, right? Anyway, she ends up going to hell. Then eventually she decides she's going to throw it away into the water, and Pinhead, the lead Cenobite, pokes her with the knife and says, oh, gotcha. Now you have to get 2 more people. They're attacked by Cenobites, and she ends up stabbing the Chatterer. And because demons seem to work off of loopholes, they're like, oh, you got it. So they take their own Cenobite instead of being like, no, we want human souls. And so they decide, oh, we only need 1 more. We need to just stab 1 more Cenobite. So when they let the Cenobite in, it's revealed that, oh, Voight is still alive. He was the one who stabbed Nora with the box. Not only that, he's working with Trevor. Trevor lured them there as someone to stab with the box. And so Voight's disfigured. He has this weird clock thing in his chest, which intermittently causes him pain. It's revealed that he chose sensation, thinking it would be pleasure, but on brand for the Cenobites, they're like, pain. Pain is pleasure. Let's do that.
Well, they said it's sensation. Like, that's it's more sensation than you'll ever feel.
Very vague. So, blah, blah, blah. There's a whole mess. And eventually, Voight argues with Pinhead for a while and says, look, this isn't what I bargained for. Pinhead's like, I don't know what to tell you. You can't take back a gift, but we could exchange it. So Voight says, okay, I want to exchange it for Leviathan, power. And then he gets like hooked up into the sky or something. It's
the claw comes down and grabs him and brings him up.
It's very clearly like, oh, these gifts aren't what you're expecting. Very obviously. Like, I could have seen that with 0 gifts changing hands. Eventually, Riley gets her hands on the thing, and they offer her a gift. And she says, no, I know that your gifts are just traps. I don't want them. And they go, oh, so you've chosen the Lament configuration, which fans of Hellraiser will know is the original name of the box. It's the Lament configuration. And the Lament configuration means that she went through the trials. She killed 4 people or whatever and has nothing to show for it.
They do say in the list it means life, but I think it's more so like she gets to to live on with the regret.
Yeah. So she goes on, and then the movie ends with Voight in the Leviathan, just giant demon thing, kind of being mutilated and slowly turned into a Cenobite, implying, that they used to be human. And as it zooms out, it's a little foggy, and the shape in which that he is tied down vaguely resembles an angel. And the movie ends.
Alrighty, let's kick off with the facts. So, first things first, Pinhead is played by a trans woman. Her name is Jamie Clayton. And part of the reason that they did that is because in the book, which Hellraiser is based off of.
Hellbound Heart, if I remember correctly. Mm-hmm.
The Hellbound Heart. Pinhead was never given a gender. Mm-hmm. It was just a female resembling voice. Mm. So this kind of more aligns with that. Mm-hmm. Also, fun fact, they had more than one trans person audition for the role. Gottmik, who is a runner-up on RuPaul's Drag Race season 12, also auditioned for the role. But eventually lost it to Jamie. I thought that was that's interesting to me because I've been binge watching RuPaul's Drag Race.
That's pretty interesting. Yeah.
And they're also
did they have other cis people try out?
I have no idea. I don't know if they were looking for someone trans specifically. It just noted that these two who auditioned for the role were trans. So they might have had some cis people audition.
I'm curious. I can totally understand the decision to have just a trans person.
So there are cues of Christopher Young's original score in the movie. It was filmed in Belgrade, Serbia, as well as Bulgaria. So they originally started filming this in 2021, but had to stop because of Omicron, and that's when they were filming in Bulgaria. And then this time around, they switched to Serbia. There are a few quotes that are homage to the original.
I have a couple.
We have such sights to show you, as well as "What's your pleasure?"
Yep.
Which "What's your pleasure" is a direct quote.
It's slightly altered. I'll get into that. But keep going.
It took 4 hours to apply all the makeup to the actors playing the Cenobites, as well as 45 minutes to an hour to remove it all. Thought that was pretty interesting.
I never got that. From someone who has never put on makeup in his life, I've always been like, why don't you just peel it off?
Because it goes straight onto the skin.
Yeah, but it's not it doesn't rip your skin off if you peel it, right?
What are you peeling?
I assume that
it's paint.
I guess you're right, yeah. but then can't they just get in the shower? I just don't get it.
So most of the time, makeup is waterproof.
Okay.
So it won't just wash off in the shower.
Okay, but I don't believe that it's entirely stand under a shower and scrub waterproof.
You could do that, but why is my question.
What's the alternative?
To do it in the sink.
That just sounds like a shitty shower. Am I wrong?
No, but also the actors are not the
They're
makeup
all
artists
allergic to showers.
No, the makeup artists are taking some of this makeup off for them.
Why though?
To make it easier. It's hard to
Is it easier than just showering?
Yes.
Okay, I'll just take your word for it. Sure.
You do not wear makeup.
All right, I'll just take your word for it.
Anyways, also too, they're wearing prosthetics, and those they literally glue to their face.
That's fair.
So there is a process of taking that off. So the character Roland Voight is Serbian, and
the character or
yes,
the actor? Okay.
The character. The actor, who is Goran Visnik, I don't know, Visnjic, is American Croatian. So they were born in Yugoslav, Croatia, but they're also American. This is the second horror reboot from a famous 80s slasher that utilizes a recovering female drug addict. Do you know the first one?
Okay, 80s movie, female drug addict.
Well, it's a remake featuring a remake of an 80s movie featuring a female drug addict.
Okay, is the female drug addict in the remake?
Yes.
All right, let me think.
I'm shook it's taking this long.
Give me a second.
Sorry.
Jesus. What is it? It's gonna piss me off.
It is going to piss you off because it's Evil Dead.
No! I actually like Evil Dead, too.
I know you do!
That might be my next birthday one.
Oh, very good.
I actually,
We've been saving that double feature.
yeah.
So...
I've written an essay on why the 2014 Evil Dead is not as bad as everyone says it is.
I thought it was good.
It's pretty good.
It's also 2013.
Is it?
Yeah.
Well, the one that came after that. Anyway.
Oh, so the reason that Gottmik auditioned for the role of Pinhead is because on Drag Race, they had a Pinhead-inspired look.
Huh.
Which is pretty funny.
But, predating the audition?
Yeah.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Yeah.
So, do you think they, reached out
Yeah, they
to
did.
her?
The
Oh,
film
that's so
premise, the film producers auditioned drag performer Gottmik for the role of Pinhead after Gottmik showed off a Pinhead-inspired look on the runway of RuPaul's Drag Race.
That's really funny.
I love that. I love that for...
Gottmik was the one who didn't get the role, right?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
So the word lament means to grieve. Lament?
Lament.
Whatever. I hope you leave the whatever in. Lament.
Mm-hmm,
The word lament means to grieve. Oh, Jamie Clayton was saying that she could barely move in the Pinhead costume because it was so heavy and just so taxing on the body, which also makes a lot of sense because
she was very...
Pinhead doesn't really move that much.
She was very stiff throughout the movie.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have noticed, but when you pointed it out. You don't notice that in the original because Pinhead was wearing all that leather shit.
I don't think it was as heavy on the body. And then there was a fun goof. I love a little goof. So Trevor at one moment is taking a shower.
I read about this one.
The water is not coming from the shower head. It is coming from straight above. So the final fun fact is that Doug Bradley, who originated the role of the Hell Priest / lead Cenobite
/
Pinhead, had this to say about Jamie Clayton's take in a Twitter post. I'm a bit blown away by all this. The clever redesign of the makeup, the shimmer of the pinheads, the palette, whatever the keyhole / locket / tracheotomy, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Tracheotomy thing is at the throat. It's simple, subtle, disturbing, and sexy. Everything it should be. Peace and pain, Doug.
I like that. Peace and pain.
Me too.
It's very Hellraiser.
I think I want to incorporate that. Mm-hmm. Just sign off emails. Peace and pain, actually.
For your work email.
No,
so,
I would never.
Are you ready to talk about the good?
I am ready to talk about the good.
Okay. The good. Dun, dun, dun. I think my favorite part of this movie was the updated practical effects.
Yeah.
That was our biggest knock on the original, is for such a gory movie, it had such weak practical effects.
They were almost charming in the original. These were some pretty good stuff.
Especially the scene in which Voight has the big clock pain thing in his chest. When he chews Leviathan, it dissembles and falls out of him. And you watch his body heal, and it is so much better effects than the original.
It was,
really
but
good.
it also tiny bit resembled a little bit of what they used in the original, which made it so much better because it was really, really good, but it also was a little bit stop claymation-y a little bit, and I really liked it.
The original had this thing where it would be a close-up of the skin, and you wouldn't see anything except the square of the skin, and then that would change. And they captured that, was that close-up. They also, when they removed, who was it? Nora, at one point she's being flayed, and the way they peel the skin off is better, but it definitely resembles the original of you could tell they had a wire or something that they were pulling I don't know what it is, probably latex that was supposed to look like her skin, and it would peel off it almost had a mind of its own. That was an interesting homage to the original.
It was the same with at the end too when what's his face was becoming a Cenobite.
Mm-hmm.
I really enjoyed it. I thought the effects were a great updated version. It was what you would expect from a movie in 2022, but still kind of kept some of those charming aspects of the original without being bad.
Mm-hmm. Plus, the Cenobites with better makeup no longer looked like a bunch of out-of-work actors who were wearing prosthetics.
The costume design for the Cenobites, I loved it.
Okay.
You didn't like it?
I'm reserving... I have notes about the costume design, but the execution is great.
Okay, I think that's fair. I chalked it up all under... I still liked the design regardless. I thought they did a phenomenal job with the makeup. They looked like scary monsters and not just out-of-place ravers.
Yeah. I think that Riley is one of the most likable final girls that we've ever come across. Like, she struggles. She struggles with money, addiction, but she never does anything, like, actively shitty. She truly is a victim of addiction. And then...
I really like that she kind of has, like, a full circle moment. Mm-hmm. Like, she's clearly suffering, and she has the option to kind of either take that away or do whatever, and she just chooses not to. And I agree, she is a great final girl. I hated her at the beginning.
She clearly has a level of contempt for her brother because he pities her. She would rather be homeless than have to rely on his, like, kindness. And that is, I mean, it's prideful as hell, but it is admirable in a way.
Because she knows it's not just kindness.
Mm-hmm. And she outsmarts the box.
Yeah.
Like, she beats it and then has to spend the whole movie trying to save her brother. She's not doing anything selfish pretty much that entire movie.
Yeah.
Like, they said, we need more souls, and at no point did she even consider, oh, I need to get souls or I'm going to hell. She's like, I need to rescue my brother.
Yeah. Yeah, she had...
Balls in your court, Maddie.
Man.
What were you saying?
Well, she just had, like, a bunch of people, like, in her proximity that she could have just...
Yeah.
And been done. And that would have made for a lame movie. I understand that. But she chose not to and, like, actively protected her brother's boyfriend and, like... Mm-hmm. I don't know. I enjoyed her.
People that she seemed to tangentially be involved with and not have a personal connection to, she still valued them as much as friends. As, like, Colin was kind of nice to her, but she wasn't really... She never really
was kind of on the same level as her brother because he just pitied her.
But she's like, well, it's not an option. I'm not stabbing him.
Right.
She was surprisingly likable because that's one of the hardest parts to get right in a horror movie.
Yeah.
So rarely that we see good characters.
So I kind of liked the difference in the plot. Mm-hmm. At first I was like, ugh, what is this? But then, like, as it kind of unraveled and the different layers of the box, I kind of really got into it and liked it. I liked specifically the different layers and the it unravels next thing.
I quite liked I don't know. I liked...
I have something to say about it also in the bad, but I thought it was interesting. If this was a standalone movie, it would have been interesting.
It was a creative change. I think I would have liked it less if it was standalone, but it was a creative change that I don't believe we've ever seen.
Yeah.
I will be the first to tell you I've never watched a single Hellraiser other than the first one. It's possible that this is just a copy of the second, and I'll never know.
I feel like that would have been in my facts, though.
I feel like we would have heard about it.
Yeah.
But I really did like the characters in general. A lot of time, the acting was okay, and the characters in general were entertaining without being stupid.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of times I try to give them quirks and just make them stupid, but in this, Riley's arguing with her brother about rent, and he leans around and he goes, "You guys better not have turned down the fucking TV to hear us argue. And they just, you don't even see anything. You just hear the TV get louder as they turn it back up. It was very human, very like,
Yeah.
a little funny, but enough, relatable enough that like, surely everyone listening has heard a fight and been like, I shouldn't listen to this. But man, I want to know what they're doing. I want to know what they're arguing about.
For the most part, most of the characters' actions were reasonable.
Mm-hmm. I don't think there was a single stupid decision.
I didn't love their choice to lure in a Cenobite to kill it.
Yeah.
That could have gone very wrong. I think they're lucky that the Cenobites don't move very quickly. But I don't think...
Well, they wouldn't look as spooky if they sprinted.
I don't know about that. If they sprinted on all fours, I would be crying.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's something they really knew before trying to lure in this creature. Mm-hmm. So I will say that was not my favorite decision. But it worked out for them. Except they didn't, because they didn't kill the creature.
At no point did the creature that they lure in die. I don't know if we mentioned it, but part of their plan was to lure in another Cenobite so they could stab it and get the thing.
The last task.
But she, like a fucking moron, ran and like bumped into a wall and was like, whoa! And like threw it across the room. I was like, I lost my box!
Yeah, not super smart there, but... I also really liked this house and the architecture and architect. I said it right the first time, didn't I?
No, you didn't. You're keep going.
Architecture.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, great. I really liked the architecture. I know the purpose of it was to keep the Cenobites out or in.
But it was very symmetrical. Like, even before they put the box around it, which I don't think I mentioned that, but Voight installed this like box to go around the house.
It's a cage.
To keep them out, but like plot twist, it was to keep them in.
Yes.
Anyway, so the house even before that box was very symmetrical and very boxy.
Yeah.
And I liked that. Mm-hmm.
It was all very thematically symmetrical.
Thematically symmetrical.
Sure. I think it's a pick on Ashley day.
I don't have to tell you, you're wrong. I'm not being like needlessly mean here.
I'm only kidding.
The music was good. It was also scored, not like a soundtrack. It was a nice thing that they picked up from the original.
Yep. I liked that there was more of a presence with the Cenobites.
What do you mean?
Like I feel like in the original, we didn't get a whole lot of Cenobite action. In this one, there was quite a bit more. Mm-hmm. So I liked that. And I know we have said we haven't seen the sequel. There might be there, but I enjoyed it. Mm-hmm. That's all I got.
I liked the "What's Your Pleasure, Ma'am?" That was a nice, subtle reference. A lot of times, like Uncharted is my biggest example, is they wash up on the beach and they're like, there's this guy sitting there. He's like, "Where'd you guys, like, you guys look tired." And they're like, "Yeah, we just fell off a plane or something." He's like, "Something similar happened to me once." And I'm like, okay, well, I didn't recognize him as a cameo, but I do now. I always like the references that are real subtle.
Yeah.
And so this one, he just, like, he pretends to be a bartender. He's like, "What's your pleasure, ma'am?" And it's a reference to the first line in Hellraiser where he's like, "What will your pleasure be?"
Every single Stephen King cameo where he doesn't really draw attention to himself.
I loved the original Stan Lee cameos where it actually took like a keen eye to see him. Like in one scene in Spider-Man, he grabbed someone and pulled them out of the way of a falling thing. He was only half in the shot for a second. And it was nice when he didn't get his own scene. It was nice of a like, "Ooh, I saw him. Did you see him?"
It's like an Easter egg.
Yeah, like in Iron Man 2 when they're flashing through and they're like showing all these celebrities and they're like, "Jay Leno," and they flash Stanley. It's just, it's I like it when it's subtle and clever. Yeah. Two more things. I like the car stretching scene where Nora was being taken by the Cenobites. Yeah. She's surrounded by people, and before now we've only seen people just disappear. But here she is surrounded by people, and she's lying in the car, and on one end, the car is stretching out, and on the other, like, she turns back and it's stretching out. So she's in this, like, middle ground where all of a sudden she's alone. It's a pretty good shot. And then lastly, there's a lot of guy butts, which is good for this movie. It's just, for a movie that's about sex, it needs nudity. And there's enough guy butts to justify that.
You're not wrong.
Okay, so, do you have anything else for the good?
Nope, I'm ready for the bad.
Okay.
The bad.
So, the bad. Number 1, no boobs. Plenty of guy butts, no boobs, and no girl butts. For a movie about sex, it needs to be more sexy.
I have to agree.
So, on that note, I was talking to our friend Kate the other day, and offhandedly mentioned that we were reviewing this movie.
Yeah.
And she said, "Oh, I hated it." And I was like, "Why'd you hate it? I thought we had a good time watching it." And she's like, "I did. But, for a movie about sex, it's not very sexy." And that was a good point about the original, and it's a great point here. They have all these lines like pleasure and pain, one and the same. They're like, we have such sights to show you where pain and pleasure mix. And they just, it's all pain. It doesn't even look like, at least when Pinhead was in his leather gear,
there was a little bit more sexiness to it.
He looked like BDSM gone too far.
Yeah, which is the point. I do think in the original when, the brother, whatever his name is, when Frank gets the box and he's originally like pulled in chains, he was enjoying himself.
Okay.
I think he I mean, before the pain really hit and he was ripped to shreds, he was excited.
Okay.
But you're absolutely right. It's not very sexy at all.
Yeah.
I was just thinking about that like right as you walked off to the bathroom.
Another thing I hate about this movie was the box design. First of all, part of what
did they redesign it? It looked
off.
It
would change shape.
Oh yeah.
As a box, I think it was the same.
Okay.
But it would change to this weird tube design. It was just bizarre. It made it less scary. Part of the spooky thing is the simplicity. Is you were drawn in by the puzzle box. That's all it was just a puzzle box, and you would try to solve it.
I think it would have been way better if just the puzzle kind of twisted, but then it was still in the box.
But also that it makes more sense, doesn't it? Of a demon portal being in a puzzle box than this machine that changes shape to represent the choices and configurations.
Yeah. I don't think they needed a physical representation for the choices and everything like that.
It just completely changes the movie. The fact that the knife comes out is a weird way of making it literal for what we already had no problem understanding.
Yeah.
And whenever it would stab them, they would get woozy, which was bizarre except for the one time in which the girl had done drugs and it paired up really well, where you're like, oh, is she on drugs? Is she woozy from the knife? What is it? But otherwise, it was just dumb. The choices are bizarre. Here, pick from these 6 choices. I don't know. If I met God and he gave me 6 choices, I'd be like, oh, okay. I kind of thought I'd have more free will on this one, right?
Well, that's what...
Wouldn't you be surprised if you
could... so it's their God, not our God.
But you could commune with God, and he's like, pick one of these things, and he gives you 6 options. When you'd be like, oh, can I not come up with my own here?
Yeah,
I'm supposed to ask you for a boon. I don't know.
The fact that they have a God and that's the goal of the puzzle box, really...
It's dumb.
Yeah, it's not great. I didn't like the fact that they answer to a God.
And let's talk about the fact that their God, at its core, he gives you 6 options. You know what that means, right? Their God is multiple choice based. That's what it means.
Yeah, no, I did not. I didn't like it. I didn't like the choices, the ability for choices. it would make sense. Oh, you get a wish, make your wish. Oh, sorry, you're screwed.
I would honestly prefer speaking with like a god and just having them say no until I reach one of their 6 acceptable options than like, here, pick these 6, because again, it's multiple choice. Like, you just find the one that you think is most right.
The problem is they needed a way for her to figure out that she could potentially bring her brother back.
So, on top of that, the rules are just too well defined that it's less spooky. Like, when you understand the consequences, it's not scary.
Right.
A couple more thoughts on the box. When they would stab each other with it, it was the dumbest thing in the fucking world. like Nora got stabbed when it was like literally a box. It looked like she got stabbed with a cube, and she's like, ah, it's in my back. And everyone's like, oh my god, how did it get here? They didn't piece together that Voight was still there. They're just like, uh-oh. And
I mean, but it's also, if you're stressed out running around everywhere, you're not going to think.
But, like, he full-on two-handed that bad boy into her back. It looked stupid. And then lastly, when they would stab a Cenobite with it, it inherently makes them less spooky.
Yeah.
Like, I thought they were going for souls, not technicalities. So, I think it would have been a lot more interesting if she stabbed him and he was just like, what do you expect to happen? I'm already a demon.
Yeah.
This isn't a rule book. It's whether or not we're appeased by it, and we're not.
My issue with the box is even though I like the layers, it goes against the lore. This is a very well established. I think they did a good job in the first one of keeping the box vague, but also giving you its purpose. And while I understand they needed to make it deeper and whatnot, I just was like, this goes against everything I've been told in Hellraiser universe. This is not right.
At its core, they lost like the very essence of the box, which is it is a puzzle box that summons demons when you complete it. At the bare bones, that is what Hellraiser is about, and they lost that.
So kind of going on that, like, they lost the purpose of it at its core. I felt like they lost the purpose of kind of the original movie. And I know it's not a remake or a copy of the original. It kind of stands alone, but within the universe. But it lost a lot of, like, what the purpose of the original movie. It had a lot of charm, and it was produced in the 80s, but there was just something about it that this movie did not have.
I mean, at its core, kind of what I liked about it was it tapped into some of that emotion of when you see more hardcore BDSM than you're used to. It
makes you uncomfortable.
It makes you uncomfortable, but it isn't from a place of absolute horror. Is at its core, it's
kind of more curiosity.
Yeah, it's meant to tap into some curiosity, almost excitement. And this movie never did that.
No, it definitely falls flat in comparison. The thing with this movie...
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. But just, like, the box inherently is supposed to do that. Is it supposed to make you think, oh, this could be really bad, but what if it isn't? Right. That was what drew Frank to it.
Right. I was going to say, it kind of lost that... The original wasn't really about the Cenobites. It was about the box and one person's kind of relationship to the box, I guess. Mm-hmm. While I liked the fact that the Cenobites played a bigger role, mainly so that we could see the costumes.
They were more a consequence than the villain.
Yeah, exactly. In this one, they were more the villain, but then we were introduced Voight, who is actually the villain, and it just got very confusing. Mm-hmm. And I was really disappointed that it kind of... I wrote down in my notes that the Cenobites were much more aggressive outwardly, more so than, like, when Nora gets taken hell, they torment her, but, like, not in the way of, like, oh, pain is pleasure, pleasure is pain, in a way that, like, is meant to be bad for her. And I was like, that's not the point.
Yeah.
So that was kind of frustrating.
The Cenobites in general did frustrate me a lot because they didn't really have any close-ups. They used a movie trick where they don't really show it well and you fill in the gaps. But the original movie, and I am trying not to compare it to it, but the original movie didn't shy away from the close-ups. And it had bad effects, but it just leaned into it. It was like...
It embraced it.
It should... So I think they should have capitalized on their improved special effects and just shown the most horrible thing they could.
Yeah, I think they did a good job of doing close-ups of Pinhead, but that's because, like, they probably felt like they had to, because Pinhead is kind of a crucial character. That being said, I did like Pinhead.
I didn't love her. Not because they cast a woman as Pinhead or anything. She seemed almost more detached than usual.
More detached, but also not detached enough.
The original Pinhead was he was a guy who was tortured until he became a Cenobite, and he was the leader, but
he also was just
she had a very straightforward, plain voice, and it was just very.
But she didn't have a very straightforward, plain facial expression, and that's really what threw me, because Pinhead in the original is very deadpan but expressive voice. And that to me was like the creepy factor of it, because it was like this, I'm just getting almost dead eyes, and her, I'm not getting dead eyes, but I'm getting dead voice.
You know what's interesting? Just speculation. I don't have any source on this, but I bet the reason that is because of the makeup.
Probably.
I bet he couldn't really emote.
Yeah.
And had to do it with his voice.
That's a very good point.
So with that, they look dumber than usual because the movie is shying away from showing like close-ups and stuff like that. They trap them like a fucking mouse. It's so dumb.
That whole scene was stupid. I liked that.
It inherently makes them less scary if you can capture them and kill them.
Yeah. It kind of ruined the movie. I don't know. I went through waves of whether or not I liked it or didn't like it. But that made me just very unhappy in the moment when they trapped the stupid monster. And now I'm calling it a stupid monster because they treated it like a stupid monster versus, a very scary demon that's gonna torture you forever. It just...
Like, part of the interesting part about the Cenobites is they wasn't what they were physically able to do to you. Is
right.
Like, you got the sense at all times that they were holding back. Like, they could snap their fingers and send you to hell. And this movie portrayed it as if you can capture them in a cage, there you go, you got them.
Yeah, you wouldn't be able to capture the original Cenobites because they could just snap their fingers and be out of your stupid trap.
Yeah.
It made no sense. They definitely dumbed them down for sure. I did not like Voight as a character. I felt he was unnecessary.
It was pretty predictable too.
Yeah.
Like, as soon as they showed the holes in the walls, it was like, guess who's alive in the walls?
Yeah.
Voight.
Also, the twist of Trevor working with Voight, I didn't see it coming, but it was very predictable as well. I wasn't surprised at all. I was like, yeah, that makes sense.
It was close to being done well. I liked, because they set it up with Matt being like, what kind of person hooks up with someone in his AA group? Who does that? And it seemed like, at the time, it seemed like her brother was really...
Just being an older brother and being
looking
protective.
Out for, but looking back on it, that was definitely a sign of it was a predatory kind of looking for vulnerable women.
That is the point.
Yeah.
Exactly. I agree. It could have been done better. It just didn't. And I am not a movie maker to know what they should have done. But yeah, I am with you there.
So the clock design when Voight when he picks sensation, they like put some thing in his chest. I don't even know how to describe it, but it's like this brass looking gear thing that like winds his intestines or something.
It's a door hinge and it winds his nerves.
Okay. But regardless, the design of it was fucking stupid.
Yeah, I didn't like it.
I don't know. I honestly don't know how to elaborate on that. It was just not interesting to look at. Is every so often you'd be like, "Ugh!" And it would move, and I'd be like, oh, okay. Yeah, probably hurts. It's just not a creative looking thing. And that ties into another issue I have, which is that the torture in this movie was really uncreative. Like, they're like, oh yeah, we get you with hooks, and then, well, we got you with hooks, and that's what we do. We got you.
Which is a reference to the original.
Right, but that's all they do, though.
Right. Also, in the original, I got the reference that, like, your torture was kind of dictated by you and, like, kind of what you were into. Like, you know what I mean? In terms of, like, BDSM scale, it's, like, very much, like, you could say Frank was into hooks and whatnot.
He was definitely into bondage.
Yeah.
So that's interesting.
That's kind of the inference I got from it, but I also could just be making that up.
I don't think we had enough victims to really be able to make a pattern out of it, but I like your interpretation though.
Yeah. Yes, interpretation is the right word. So, but this would go against that completely, which is just not as interesting. You know, if it's different, you know, torture per person, customizable, I guess, is the right word I'm looking for. That's way more interesting.
I mean, all of my favorite depictions of hell have had it be personal, which is to say supernatural.
but yeah, I would say even Lucifer also does that. Like hell is a personal torture, so it would make sense if their forms of torture changed per person. So them sticking with these just ripping people apart by hooks. It gets boring.
I don't want to get ripped apart by hooks, but like if I were to think of a personal hell chamber, it wouldn't be me being ripped apart by hooks.
No, it'd be me trapped with one of these stupid horror monsters that we're reviewing.
And just forced to watch horror movie after horror movie with them.
Actually, yeah. No, you're right. No, my personal hell is just Carter putting on constant bad horror movie.
I'm like, all right, well, that was the first viewing of Under the Dome. I think you're really gonna pick up on some of the themes in the second viewing.
You're right. Under the Dome
would be but the third is really where it comes out, and I think you're gonna really get that.
Every time I try to change the conversation, it's just redirected to Under the Dome.
Under the Dome is pretty good, and I will.
I'm glad you're dying on that hill. But can you hurry up, please?
Okay. Hurry up and die.
Yeah.
I will say, though, I will haunt you guys forever if you put the Under the Dome DVDs in my grave.
You're going to haunt us forever if we do that?
Yeah, no, I don't want them. What am I going to do with them? I want you guys to watch them. Anyway, so then my final issue.
I can't wait to show up to your funeral. I haven't talked to you in years.
I like how it's presupposed that you and I have gotten into some kind of a horror sucks related fight and are done talking.
So we haven't talked in years. Your family's there, and I unexpectedly show up and just tuck your Under the Dome DVDs from 2020 under your arm because the reason we fought was I stole them.
like a ninja with your ninja stars, you like shing and you just flip them into my grave.
Oh, that's even better. I was just going for let me
Yeah.
There you go, buddy.
So my last
have fun in the afterlife.
Joke's on you, I will. Anyway, so my biggest, not my biggest, but just my final issue with this is that their friend got stabbed with the box. And, like, in her back, between her shoulder blades, clearly stabbed. And they're like, oh, let me just keep leaving it on the other side of the fucking room.
For people who are concerned about this box, they don't take good care of it.
They really don't.
But also, my next question is, why do they care so much about the box? Like...
Well,
pre finding out it could potentially bring her brother back, she's like, oh, I gotta get the box. It's like...
Before then, she very quickly found out
She didn't find out until she got to Voight's.
You're right.
Place.
So originally she thought it would be worth money, and that's why she kept it.
Right.
She played with it because she thought it was interesting. Mm-hmm. I think she was able to draw a connection.
I guess. I don't know. It just... I would have ditched the box. My brother's gone.
Rip in peace, Tommy.
Listen, I know he was stabbed by the box, but, like, it's not going to help me get him back.
Well, but it did, though, didn't it?
No, because she chose not to have him back.
Yeah, which was the smart decision.
Oh, yeah. He would have haunted her.
Probably.
Yes. Okay, so my last thing that I did not like, at the very end, when Voight turns into a Cenobite, it was so... I don't know. I think it was unnecessary. It wasn't interesting, and it was...
I think it was for viewers who at that point didn't know that the Cenobites were like former humans. I
guess. I just was like... I liked seeing the process of him turn into a Cenobite, but I didn't think it was necessary at the very end of the movie after it's all wrapped up.
That's fair.
You know, it
could have been done a little earlier, maybe.
Yeah, I think that would have even been better if he got sucked up and we immediately saw him turn into a Cenobite. Yeah, we wouldn't be having this conversation. But yeah.
So are you ready to talk about the spooky?
I am.
The spooky. My number one thing was at the end when he was being turned into a Cenobite and it zoomed out, and with the fog you just saw a silhouette and it looked like your classic angel of like, I mean really it looked like a full-on snow angel.
Yeah, it was angelic.
Yeah, in the clouds. I loved that. And it fit thematically because this whole movie is pleasure versus pain, good versus evil. And so I liked that.
My spooky thing, there really wasn't much. But when they trap the demon, their stupid demon trap, his face kind of peels back. I thought that was kind of spooky. But only the effects. Yeah. Not him being trapped.
Because he was a demon that was like had his neck trapped like a character on Breaking Bad.
Yeah. But I thought the effects were spooky.
So then my last note on spooky was the inside the throat cam. Do you remember that?
Yes, I did. And thank you for bringing that up because I did want to bring it up. That was cool. I liked that.
How do I describe it? This character is like...
Nora has been taken by the Cenobites and strung up. And Pinhead pulls one of her pins out of her head and sticks it into Nora's neck. And we get a shot from inside her esophagus, whatever.
Throat.
I don't know. Throat, yeah.
My pal Emma likes to brush Barney's long ass dick.
What?
My pal Emma likes to brush Barney's long ass dick. It's the parts of the respiratory system.
Interesting.
My mouth, pal, pharynx. Emma, esophagus. Likes, larynx. 2, trachea. Brush,
brachial.
I think brachial is the smaller ones. I think it's brachii.
You're
Brush, Barney's, brachioles.
Yep.
Long. Lungs. A, alveoli, dick, diaphragm.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That is so what did you say was pal?
My pal. Pharynx.
Pharynx. Okay, I thought you said pharynx and I was like, do we need to have a talk?
Anyway, so this is for all you kids out there trying to make it through 9th grade biology. Just remember the English phrase. My pal Emma likes to brush Barney's long ass dick. Shout out to Huzefa.
So, yes. Thank you for the throat cam.
Yes. Yeah, that's right. That's what we were talking about.
So, but we got to see like the inside of the throat and the needle getting stuck through, and then it comes out the other side. And it was good because it wasn't super accurate. It had that kind of cheesiness throwback to OG Hellraiser that I really enjoyed it. It almost kind of was Wes Anderson-y in image, like not thematically, like imagery wise.
It definitely had the like the very vibrant colors of Wes
yeah,
Anderson.
yeah. You know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
No, listeners who have watched the movie know what I mean. Yeah. Hopefully. Okay.
You ready for some overall thoughts?
Yeah. Or do you want to give
I'll start with overall.
Okay.
Do you mind if I go first?
Go ahead.
So this is supposed to be a new movie, so I don't really knock the differences, but the demons in general don't really feel like... They make it feel like the demons are the villain instead of the box being kind of what changes things and the demons being a consequence of that. And on top of that, they feel way more fallible. The improvement in special effects is offset by the drop in creativity. Characters are pretty good, though. I did enjoy that. The plot is pretty straightforward. There's not really any mystery, so it kind of is a little boring. But very, very little of this movie is terrible. A lot of it is a little bit of a letdown. They do a lot of things well, though. What did you think?
I think I'm on the exact same page. After watching it, I didn't want my time back. Mm-hmm. It did everything it needed to do, and it hit all the notes, but it did lack a lot of the charm, the underlying tones of sex, things from the original, which I know we're not comparing, but it is based off the novel that's the original is based off. So I think it missed the mark for me.
I will say, though, if it's not done nuanced, it's very easy to portray this movie as anti-sex.
Yeah.
They steered away from that, which, my view of creativity is nothing ventured, nothing gained, is real good characters come from risk, and so
this movie took no risks.
Yeah, Fight Club. Part of why I love Fight. No, not part of why I love Fight Club. I love Fight Club because it's a good book, but it could easily be misinterpreted as here's why you should hate women. And so you've read Fight Club, right? Mm-mm. Oh, okay. I'd let you borrow it, but every time I've loaned someone Fight Club, I've never gotten it back. I'm legitimately...
To be fair, I have like 3 of Carter's books sitting on my bookshelf. I know exactly where they are.
Legitimately, I'm on my 5th copy of Fight Club. Because,
wow. You keep buying it?
Well, what am I supposed to do? Not own it? Anyway.
Well, I'm gonna...
Nothing ventured, nothing gained. Steering away from the idea that like, oh no, sex is bad was a little cowardly. Anyway, are you ready to get that Joe DeStasio memorial line highlight?
Oh, lay it on
and
me.
The subsequent story I have?
Absolutely.
So, the line highlight is Colin and Riley are in the basement, and they hit a light, and it turns red. And they're like, what are we looking at? And they see just 50 Shades of Grey style, like whips, chains, and stuff hanging up on the wall. And Colin goes, what is this place? And Riley goes, I don't know, a fuck dungeon?
They should have had more moments like that.
It was... I think they had a good amount. If they had more, it would have seemed silly.
I guess.
This was, like, the right amount of funny.
Oh, I just meant references to sex and bondage.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, probably.
Anyways, let's hear this story about Joe.
So... I'm sure I've told you. I'm happy you haven't heard it because it's going to make telling this story a lot easier. But, so I want to say junior year of college, I'm looking for a roommate. I'm living off campus. And I'm complaining in the group daily that, like, all I'm getting is just random people who are like, hey, is this open? I'll be like, yeah, and they won't respond to me. And finally, like, someone responded. I was like, ooh, I checked my email, and it's... By the way, my friend Joe, who was on this podcast before, his name's Joe DeStasio. I get a email, and it says, Joseph DeStasio has responded. And I just text him, like, it's funny, dude, but I'm trying to find it. I do think it's funny, but I'm just not in the mood to hear it right now. He's like, what the fuck are you talking about? And I'm like... The thing, the roommate thing, is like, dude, I don't know what you were talking about. You're looking for a roommate, right? And I'm like, hang on. And so I go and I look, and sure enough, this man's name is Joseph DeStasio. And he needs a room. And I say,
you're in.
Mi casa es su casa, Joe. Welcome to the squad. And I wasn't able to keep it a secret from both of them, but I was able to keep it a secret from him. And
from roommate Joe?
Yeah. So I go, hey, roommate Joe. I didn't say that. I said, hey, Joe. I go, hey, Joey. I got someone you need to meet. And he goes, what? And I go, this is Joe DeStasio. Joe DeStasio. Meet Joe DeStasio. And in that conversation, we eventually discovered that they have the same middle name.
No!
Yes. They have the exact same 3 names. And not only that, Joe's like, oh, they're talking to each other. And he's like, I'm a TA for Italian. And Joe goes, oh my God, that explains so much. Since Joe has been going to school, he has been receiving random emails saying, ciao, Professor DeStasio. I will not be able. He's like, wrong email address. And so people are looking up Joe DeStasio and they're seeing like J.M. DeStasio and Joe DeStasio. And they're like, well, okay. He's just picking their best. And it's always wrong.
I love that. I love the idea of just getting a random ciao, Professor DeStasio.
And so, like, after that, like, there was over the summer, like, Joey would text me and just be like, hey, tell Joe I said thanks. like Joe talked to him more often than I did over the summer, just forwarding him emails.
That's too funny. That's a ride. Did they look alike at all?
In a like a police sketch way, in that they both had like dark hair, glasses, stuff like that.
So
like,
basically a profile picture attached to the email would not help these persons.
You wouldn't, well, if you saw a picture, you wouldn't confuse them, but if
the picture's this big.
If you were describing them, you would never in a million years be able to tell them apart.
That's so funny.
God.
So they could appear in a lineup together.
Well, yeah, they would easily be picked out, but they would both be put in that lineup.
Yeah.
And Joe, while being put in that line, would be like, what do you mean?
Oh my God, that's so freaking funny. You have never told me that story.
I swear to God, I must have told it a million times.
That's so funny.
Rest in peace, Joe, both of you. They're both dead now.
Yeah, the memorial quote is actually for both of them.
So from now on, we will be doing the JDAJDMLH, which is the Joseph DeStasio and Joseph DeStasio Memorial Line highlight. All right, so what are we watching next week?
Next week, drum roll. I'm not actually going to do a drum roll. That's stupid. But it's my birthday episode, so we're going to be watching Hocus Pocus 2 with a potential special guest that I'm excited for. Carter's indifferent.
Yeah. No, I'm just hesitant is all.
Yeah,
just
it'll be fine.
From the technological limitations. Anyway, if the next episode is either Cabin in the Woods or, what was it?
Or Ouija,
then you know we've been defeated both physically and mentally. And it's just a matter of time until Ashley alone is doing this podcast with 2 mics doing a Carter voice.
I don't even know if I could do it.
Let's hear it. You actually did do a pretty good job that one time.
What's a catchphrase you say?
Groovy.
Oh yeah, groovy. No, I gotta work on it.
I didn't hear it there, but
groovy. I gotta work on it. Mm-hmm. Not good enough. All right. Well, I think we've taken up enough of your time. Anything else you want to say?
Nope.
Great. Thank you all for listening. We really appreciate it. If you would like to find us, you can find us on Instagram at HorrorSexPodcast or at HorrorSex.com. It definitely will be posted by the time this episode is released. And I say that because I'm probably going to do it tonight or tomorrow. If you like what you heard, please make sure to rate, review, and subscribe. And on that note,
stay spooky.
Horror Sex is brought to you by Wild Thing Media. Editing is done by Carter Rhodes, and music